Incredibly slim, early in the morning. He's so tanned, our police. Look at this, got to go get my hair cut. He's so tanned, he's so head full, he's a silver fox, head full of grey hair and everything. Good morning, everyone. How are we all? Bethan Williams, Someone Somewhere. You got your first, hope you enjoyed your first No Name Sunday show, Someone Somewhere. Leanne H, Bethan Williams, Sky Elise, hello Sky, Sally O'Sullivan, I've said Bethan Williams, Brenda McGee, Stuart G, I'm good Sky, how are you? Raspberry Mojito Girl, Lior, hi there my darling, Susie Bulmer, Russ, how you doing Russ? Nicole Marcella, DC, good morning. Are you DC as in DC Comics? I'm still wading through Justice League, a massive 4 hours. I watched 15 minutes sort of just before I go to sleep. Velvet Vicky Waiting, good morning. Lisa Johnson, Kay Betson, Sunny Sheffield are there. Hello, Sunny Sheffield. Our dear friend Rachel's up there. Oh my God, I was absolutely killed. Morning, Tim, Lorraine, Elizabeth Gordon, tra-la-la, good morning, my darling. Robert T, if you're out there, good morning. I know you don't get shout-outs that often. I apologise, don't see your name that often. Karen Bennett, Kerry Gracie, Vicky Equi, Denise Drummond Mulvaney. That's a great solid name, isn't it? Ayani, I hope I've pronounced that correct. Ayani, Jill Bryan, Katie Collier, Zoe Holman, Linda Tyler, Dragon Rose. I hope you're being able to resolve your notifications from YouTube. I mean, obviously, I know a number of people have been struggling with notifications from YouTube. We've been struggling with various sort of analytics with YouTube. So we can't do much. We, like you, have to go cap in hand to the powers that be at YouTube and say, look, this isn't working. So do contact them if you're having problems. I've noticed on my Doghouse account that I have been getting notifications though at the moment. So later today we're going to be deciding on the roadmap for this week on the channel, and we'll be then posting it on the community tab for members, telling members what's happening, for non-members telling them what's happening. So Nads is at loose unusually today. It's very unusual for her to be there on a Monday. It's the only day she's doing this week, so she's just doing Monday. The rest of the week is she's not going to be there, which is great. So we're all good. How are you all? How are you all this fair Monday morrow? Although it's not the morrow, it's the morning. Well, if you're still in yesterday, it's the morrow. I'm talking to you from the future. And if any of you perhaps are in Tuesday, I'm talking to you from the past. And if any of you are in the toilet, you could be in the present. You had a wonderful, who's that? Dawn Claricoats, I think. Was it? Yes, Dawn Claricoats. I had a wonderful day yesterday. Saw my daughter for the first time in over a year. This is it. I think what everyone's going through is having firsts, aren't we? We're having re-emergences, like moles coming out from underground. We're poking our strange noses that moles have, though we don't have those noses. We're poking our noses up and we're sort of smelling the air and we're feeling our way back into relationships. And I think it's really important, and this is what I will be talking about in the mental health chat that I'll be doing and uploading, is it's really important that we respect the pace at which people want to re-enter. Robert T, good morning. Yeah, there you are. We should respect the pace at which people want to move back in. I often say that in the business of television and film and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of stress in all industries. There's lots of different types of stress. But I always remember someone saying to me years ago, the only stress they experienced was other people's stress. And I know what they mean by that. It's like, if you can be rock solid and move at your pace, obviously, if you're needing to get things done, get them done, but don't, to be honest with you, actually, it isn't a race. I do think we have life sold to us as if it's a race, a competitive race. It's not a competitive race. It's your life and only you have it. So there you go. Donna Pearson, I would love to go for a beer in a pub garden, but no one to go with. Phil Selleck, Donna, you've got the community here, my darling. Your card is going out to you. Can everyone send Donna Pearson an enormous hug and just huge sort of chin-chins and what have you? Could your, I don't know if you have children. Could you have any children who could take you? Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry if you feel lonely and sad, but I promise you, there's hugs coming at you. And many other, and the important thing, Donna, is many other people are feeling like that. I feel, I mean, because I don't drink, I've written, and I'll talk about this in the mental health chat that I'm going to upload. I feel, here you go, Donna, look, all these hugs coming in. I do feel slightly like parked outside of the way in which the vast majority of people can go about just sort of celebrating in a convivial, kickback fashion. you know, it's kind of like, even though I am very silly, you see a lot of silliness on this channel, I'm very silly off camera with the kids. I like to entertain, I like to make people laugh, I like to keep people entertained. It's not the kind of kickback that you're talking about, Donna, where you'd like to just kick back and literally forget things. And just, even when I kick back and I'm being silly, I'm very conscious of what I'm being, though I hope the people around me don't necessarily know that, because I'm trying to entertain them. But it is hard. It is hard. Donna, my friend's always busy and my kids are 13 and 14 and doing their own thing. That is tough. We do talk about on Confessions about the loneliness of being a parent of teens. It can be a very tough time. Why not try and talk to your friend and park a fixed date, even if it's 6, 7, 8, 9 days away, and then it could be something that you could work towards and be excited about. And sometimes I think a little bit of honesty with your friend, if you reach out to your friend and say, look, I'm feeling a bit down actually and a bit lonely. Could we make sure that we do this date? And it'd be really nice to see you. Do you see what I mean? It's a difficult one to resolve. It's a difficult one to resolve. But just know that, come here and you just, hopefully you felt the love of a virtual hug. Oh, sweetie. Your card has gone out in a batch. I don't know if it might have already gone out. I think Nadia was in charge of posting them this week. Velvet Vicky waiting. I've prioritised this live this morning. I'm going through one of the hardest times of my life and I'm feeling totally emotionally lost. Need friends and distraction. Velvet Vicky wait. You see, Velvet Vicky, this is again why I will be uploading a chat later. It is a very difficult time, and I've said a lot that I worry about the moment we come out of lockdown, because I think the equation is quite simple for an enormous number of people, which is, I just want to get back to where we were. And so any step back to where we were will be seen as positive. And I get that, that makes sense. There's parts in all of our lives, you know, seeing loved ones, all that, which makes sense, And yet, there's a vast majority of other people, Velvet Vicky, for whom, you know, lockdown has provided, a limitation to some of the joys of life, but it's also provided certainty. And I think one of the key components of a lot of people who struggle with anxiety and mental health issues is a lack of certainty or a fear of uncontrollability and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, as those structures disappear, we've got used to them, and we shouldn't feel bad about the fact. And I think that's one of the most important messages I want to kick out there, is that don't feel bad about the idea that you're struggling to come to terms with this re-accessing of freedom. I mean, you know, as an analogy, let's use Swansea as an analogy. You know, the debris and the litter and the devastation that's left, because I don't think pubs are open still there, that I saw in the images again from overnight or over the weekend, and other parts of the country, not just Swansea, but you know, I think because the pubs are closed there, it was particularly bad. That's almost a metaphor for the voracious way in which so many people are going to run back out into this new freedom and just consume it again. And it's about being kind to those who want to reconnect with things that they've missed, but it's also about being kind to those who can't move at the same pace. So I think, yeah, it's hard. And you know, when you've got the government saying things like, you know, we've got to fast track learning and we've got to make up for lost time, and you know, life isn't an administrative detail. I mean, you know, society would make you think it is. Life isn't just an administrative detail. It's not an inventory of things to do. It's you're living a life. It's not just about, you know, ticking things off a box and getting tasks done. It's not. Sophie takes us to a very important topic though. Did you hear about Football Super League? It's funny you should mention that, Sophie. I popped it in the title and I thought, well, the vast majority of people here will not be interested in football, but it's massive news for anyone who's a football lover. And I'm sure many of you might know people who are football lovers. I don't know if that will have helped at all, Velvet Vicky, but sending you a big hug as well. So yes, you know, 6 football clubs are basically leaving the Football League and they're heading off to set up their own Super League. I think it's outrageous. I think it's terrible. I think it's yet another elite little coterie of people. What's happened to the good old-fashioned days of First Division, Second Division, Third Division, Fourth Division, and then you've got a club right down the bottom of the Fourth Division like Crewe, when I was a kid, trying to work their way up. Nice and simple. Keep it simple. And you've got the trickle down of all the money from the big clubs trickles down to the smaller clubs. Super League is a stupid idea that will just keep a huge amount of the money in football just within the clubs at the top. I think it's an absolute disaster, potentially. I really do. I think it will, and I'm sad to see that my club, I say my club, I used to go as a kid, Tottenham are in there. I mean, they must have only just got in by the skin of their teeth. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing, I have to say. Crew, someone somewhere, you grew near, yeah, it's not a criticism of Crew. I used to, Crew Alexandra, wasn't it? Is that the name of the football team? I'm pretty sure. So, Nadia did coffee moaning yesterday morning. Obviously, it was the Prince Philip's funeral the day before. We talked about it somewhat in the No Name Sunday show, so apologies if I'm repeating for members. I thought it was a really meaningful, big royal funeral, but in a low-key fashion. I thought they managed to, manage that inherent contradiction in what the event needed to be, perhaps should have been for Philip. I thought they managed it very well, and I thought it was very meaningful. We didn't watch it as it happened, but we did watch, obviously, excerpts and highlights. So that was good. Now, and obviously, one of the things to have come out of it potentially is, will Harry and Will's make up, or even with Charles? And by all accounts, they were in a 2-hour meeting after the funeral with their dad. So Prince Charles, Prince Harry, and William all sat down and had a chat for 2 hours. Now, obviously, we're not going to know what they talked about, but it would be nice to think that perhaps they found some resolution. Now, I believe it's the Queen's birthday, isn't it? Is it on Wednesday? She's 95. So there is rumour that Harry is going to stay for those celebrations too. Would it be awful if he just kept staying? I wonder if Meghan's got slightly twitchy over in La La Land. Wouldn't it be, I mean, you know what I mean? Especially when you're pregnant, a bit vulnerable. Oh, God, Harry's back with the firm, and oh my God, I mean, imagine if he didn't go back. No, I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I mean, there might be a bit of. So there's talk that Harry may stay on for the Queen's 95th birthday. What do you think, guys? Yes, I like a yes/no question. Should Harry stay for the Queen's birthday? Yes or no? Hit me with it. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Oh, coffee. Greatest thing ever invented. God, especially espresso. Yes, all right, okay. Yes. Rachel Tidy, you say no. Why no? I mean, I'm intrigued. I mean, maybe, should he not? Should he be there supporting his wife? Will it send out the wrong signal to his wife? Do you think... Kirsty Walker-Ryan, you say no. It's a Brown, you think he should go and come back? I don't think he could for quarantine, though, could he? Quarantine reasons. Jackie Villino, he is going back today. Wifey feeling wobbly. Get back to Meghan ASAP. Yeah, he's in a bit... It's one of those ones that many men in partnerships, and women in partnerships, if you know you've got a commitment and you're cleft between the two, it's a tricky phone call, isn't it, sweetie? I'm just going to stay an extra 2 or 3. Get yourself home now. I'd really appreciate if you could get yourself home now. Jules, if Meghan's pregnancy is all well, then yes, for her birthday. The Queen needs her family around her now more than ever. I mean, my personal opinion on it is Meghan's not very far into her pregnancy, is she? And it's only 2 more days, and I think he should stay an extra day. But Kirsty Walker-Ryan, you believe she's pregnant and needs him with his other little one. I'm sure they've got some home help there. My hunch is that he should stay. I think it would send out the right signal to the royal family. I think it would send out the right signal to a British population that is perhaps a little less favourable to them since they did the interview. And I think it's not a huge sacrifice to Meghan because he'll be back a couple of days later. Jackie Villino, they just announced it on TV that he's going back today. I think that's a mistake. I don't think that's going to go down well. That could be one of 2 things, and there's going to be all sorts of speculation, isn't there? Does that mean the Queen didn't want him? Does that mean the 2-hour conversation didn't go well? Does that mean Meghan's used the 3-line party whip of the Conservative Party? Brenda McGee gives a simple word, which is tosser. That's big news. Let's check it out. So let's check it out. So Harry to return home, is he? They've just announced it. Return to US. Let's have a look. Meghan is due. Oh, she's due any day, is she? 22 hours ago, for 3 hours, could stay for Queen's birth. Oh, right, maybe they've just literally announced it on the news. How far gone is Meghan? How pregnant is Meghan? At 95, would you not want to be there for every single one? Jodie O'Rourke, I think I would. How, Beryl McNally, she's pulled the dog leash. How, she's due in the summer, Kirsty Walker-Ryan. Okay. So she's 6 months, that's okay. 2 days in 6 months. I seem to remember when Nadia was pregnant with Kiki, we were in Cornwall at like a week before she was due to drop, and we were told, actually, it was very stupid in a way. No, she was 2-3 weeks before she dropped. But we were told that in the Lizard in Cornwall, it would have to be a helicopter if she entered labour. I think we were. Harry, don't go yet, says Gabrielle. Wow, okay. So that's interesting, isn't it? So who'd have thought already just here, just listening to you guys? You guys are a great bellwether or temperature gauge on what's going on. So I think his decision to stay or not for Granny's Nan's birthday is going to be read in numerous different ways, isn't it? Hit the thumbs up icon. Hit the thumbs up icon beneath if you're enjoying having a little natter with me and only my first coffee of the day. Kirsty Walker-Ryan, is it COVID restrictions though? Is it because he has to go into quarantine at the other end? Maybe they've got a load of stuff to do back in... I mean, it might be that they simply have a very busy social calendar in the States and he doesn't want to be in quarantine for however long he has to be in. James Moran. Hello, never had shout out. There you go, James Moran. Shout out. If you ask for one and we see it, you'll always get one. Welcome, James Moran. I hope you're well. It's only me. Maybe she has a complex pregnancy. They did lose the last baby. So, very interesting point. It's only me. Maybe she has a complex pregnancy. They did lose the last baby. So maybe being extra cautious because he has to quarantine. Very valid point. And I like that. What I like about that point, it's only me, is there are many, many different hues and colours to this. So it'll be interesting to see how it's reported. It's a very good point. I mean, we've gone through the terrible upset of miscarriage, and yeah, you're right, I'd forgotten about that, and if you add that into the fray, then it's never just a normal easy ride. So yeah, good point, well made, thank you. So anyway, so Harry and Will's talk, maybe they've patched it up, maybe Nana said, don't be so, my Nan would have done this, don't be ridiculous, you don't have to be here, go home to your wife where you need to be, we'll sort this out all afterwards and I'll see you after you've had the baby. So there you go. So there you go. Now, Indian variant. God almighty. So, does anyone remember me 2 or 3 weeks ago saying, yes, Andrea Crash, we know, I saw about the New Zealand-Aussie travel. I think this is great news. I'll talk about that in a minute. But did anyone see me mention about a week and a half ago something about Imperial College London saying we'd have hit herd immunity by Monday at 4? I mean, I was a bit circumspect about how specifically they could predict that. Hi, Steve Charlton. And I was a bit circumspect about Imperial College London. But again, Imperial College London today, or 2 days ago, once again, Indian variant could scupper... I think basically what I'm trying to say is I think Imperial College London are sort of running against the sort of press releases of absolutely everyone else. Because only 22 hours ago, Danny Altman at Imperial College says we should be terribly concerned about the variant as 77 cases of the Indian variant are discovered in the UK. Then we have the minister, George Eustice, the environment minister, stressing that the government would proceed with caution as the country emerges from lockdown, and that the Indian coronavirus is of high concern, though there is no evidence that it can beat vaccines, the minister has said. So which is it? And when are we going to know? And when are they, hi Zoe, when are they going to make a clear announcement? Why is India not on the red list? So confusing. India is very high with the virus. It's crazy. We talked about this, if not yesterday, the day before. But you see, my point again about those two stories is, one says it's not a cause for concern. Eustice today, Environment Minister. Day before, Imperial College London, it's a cause for concern. So which is it, guys? Which is it? I do begin to wonder whether there needs to be some kind of ITC regulation of news flow so that people get coherent news rather than this flipping and flopping. Who do we listen to, Dawn Claricos? Precisely. We're left clueless. We're left absolutely clueless. Variants are only like 0.3% different from the original, so antibodies should be able to detect, recognise and kill off most of it. Now, Amelia Walsh, that's a really good point. One thing that really put Nadia's mind at ease, and we were listening to John Campbell romantically again last night, and I've been caught up in this bizarre love triangle, is that there's this idea that if a variant comes along, it sidesteps all the research that's been done and conducted into, and scientific development that's gone into these vaccines. It doesn't. It sidesteps a very small portion of the vaccines and the kind of, if you like, the firewall that we've managed to create. So I think, yes, variants are a cause for concern, but they're not a cause for concern in the way that this virus was when we had no vaccines. So once again, it's, we've got to make our fear relative. We've got to look at this in a sort of cognitive behavioural therapy way, which is, what do we know, what don't we know? We do know that there's a vaccine that is bringing down numbers in highly vaccinated countries. We also know that variants are only modified versions of the original virus by a small microcosmic amount. They might be a little bit more resistant to vaccines, but the overarching narrative is a good one. So I think it's really important to say that. There you go. Now, so someone just mentioned, Andrea Crash, was it you just mentioned? Yes, Russ, I think you're right. We are going to get strains of new variants for a long time. We will have to live and adapt, but be careful and aware. Absolutely. And my prediction is that pretty much every winter season in this country, we're going to have a heightened sense of, if not social distancing, then mask wearing, cleanliness, sort of capacity limits on venues and all that kind of stuff. I think there is going to be that introduced around Christmas time, because I think for me the big test isn't going to be this summer, isn't going to really be this autumn. The big test for me is going to be this winter, because at that point we'll be knowing the tail off of various vaccines. It'll be interesting to see, and there might be great news in there. We might all be living life relatively normally, and it's all just moving along. I think Angela Locke, Angie Knowles has commented on our members area. I think I have seen Angela Locke. So yes, so the good news from Angela Locke, if you're watching, hello, my darling. I hope you're well. Sydney, hundreds of passengers from Australia began arriving in New Zealand airports on Monday after authorities reopened borders, a pandemic milestone that allows quarantine-free travel between the countries for the first time in over a year. This must be a major and amazing moment for families sort of, living between the islands of New Zealand and Australia. This is a huge development. This is huge news. So yeah, big, woo, getting something right down there. The bubble marks a significant step in New Zealand's reconnection with the world, and it is one that we should all take a moment to be very proud of, says New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda. With the borders open, Ardern said the Australian Prime Minister could visit New Zealand in the not too distant future. Isn't this great? This is lovely. So for all of our Australian and Kiwi New Zealanders, a huge congratulations, and I'm really pleased. I mean, I know there's a bit of friendly rivalry between the two countries, certainly in cricket and things like that, and rugby. But I think this is just lovely. At the Auckland airport, listen to this, a choir was singing Dave Dobbins' Welcome Home as people hugged and kissed their dear ones. Oh my God, it makes me want to cry. Great news, all because we closed our borders and kept it out, Kaza O. There you go, Kaza O. I love Australia and I love New Zealand. I just love the attitude. There's a sort of, it's a similar kind of, I don't know, there's a sort of youthful outlook and a less jaundiced outlook to life. A little bit like I find people in California and huge parts of America, actually. I do find us Brits, we're a bit cynical. We're a bit caustic. We're a bit morose. A bit maudlin. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love us for that, and I'm all those things too. But I think I'm drawn to the childlikeness of Australia, New Zealand, and America. If I'm honest, that's what I like about them. But anyway, so that's great news. That's great news for Australia and New Zealand. And then there's this other story. This other bizarre story regarding. Oh, bear with me one sec. excusez-moi, for £5,000, you could be reinfected with COVID. If you've had COVID, apparently young people who've already had coronavirus will get £5,000 for being deliberately re-exposed to the virus. And I wanted to ask, would any of you be willing to do that? Young people who've previously had COVID-19 are going to be deliberately exposed to the virus for a second time in a new study to see how their immune systems react. Would you do that? Yes or no? Would you take £5,000 to be reinfected to research the way in which their immune system works? Yes, no, no. I think I've told this story a few times before. Kim Lakides, yes. Oh, look, we're split down the middle here. Melissa answer, hell yes. I remember being at college when a friend of mine went to have his finger amputated and then re-sewn back on. I think he got paid back then about £2,500 for it. And we were all like, oh my God, beers are on you. I know my son would not. Yes, if any people in my demographic, Francesca Bastos, Sally Jenkins, no. Yeah. So it's a kind of, yeah. I think if I was a student, I would have done. I think I would have done. You're sort of in a low risk category. I mean, it's not, as we know, it's never totally low risk. But, and of course, also NHS waiting lists. Is anyone here, I want to ask, is anyone here on one of the 4.7 million people? It's gone to 4.7 million people. Nearly 400,000 people have waited for more than a year. Is anyone here on the 4.7 million waiting list with the NHS? Now, oh, that's cold coffee. Oh God, got the dentist later. Really not looking forward to that. Sam JP, a friend of mine is waiting. I hope you're well, Sam JP. A friend of mine is waiting for surgery for severe endometriosis. Oh dear. Yes, I'm on the waiting list. Vicky Hug. NUH waiting lists are at 13 months. Sky Elise. Yeah. Your hubby is Jules. Erin Bullimore on a waiting list for ADHD treatment. I've been waiting 18 so far for an IOP. Gaynor. Velvet Vicky, yes, but not for surgery. Someone somewhere, not me, but my son is still waiting for a CAMS appointment. I know the CAMS, sort of, young people's mental health is snowed under. Jackie Valino, interesting, just shows we didn't help save the NHS, they just put it on hold. And because, and you're right, Jackie, and in a weird way, the fact that, the waiting list is this big and that we're out of the acute problem of the COVID numbers going up, it's not going to be as sexy a news story as this for the news gatherers. And yet there needs to be every bit as much emphasis put on this, especially when you consider, obviously the most 30.3% of people diagnosed with cancer are waiting more than 2 months. There's been a huge impact on cancer patients. But of course these, you'll get that headline number of 4.7 million, but how do we then translate that into some kind of meaningful response? Like you say, they've put it on pause. They haven't necessarily rescued the NHS. They've just held it together with double-sided sticky tape. Meanwhile, all of the workers in the NHS are absolutely stretched. But because it's not attached to the newsworthy story of COVID, it just won't keep getting pumped out there. And I'm a big believer in this. It's a little bit like the story surrounding the Sarah Everard case and, the women's, women's rights on the street, reclaiming the streets. I think there are certain stories that need to keep being re-pumped back out there and into the news. If you haven't had a chance to on that point, our latest Confessions of a Modern Parent has a guest spot from Gemma Oten, the actress from Emmerdale. She talks to us about the hidden issues surrounding anorexia, eating disorders in the light of the Nicky Graham tragedy. It's a really meaningful chat. Maddie contributes, Carlitos contributes. If you go to either Spotify, Global Media Player, or iTunes podcasts, go and have a listen. It's very meaningful, and that's another one of those stories that you just feel that how can one keep them going? Because I think we as a population we get sort of, what's the word? We get a bit sort of drained out, don't we? We get a bit sort of world weary when we hear the same topic come up, and yet there's a reason. Sometimes some things require more than one headline and one discussion. God forbid. Sam JP, have you watched Promising Young Woman? Not yet. I'm waiting to get every one of us in the right place, in the right position, in the lounge for us to watch it, and we will be reviewing it on the Popcorn Junkies. Zoe Agnew, thank you, darling. I listened to it. It was a very moving and important chat. It was, and she spoke so beautifully, didn't she? And movingly, Gemma, and with such clarity about anorexia and bulimia, and what we can do as parents in some way to help. But anyway, guys, there you go. Have a good Monday. As I say, keep your eye on the community tab. We'll be putting up stuff there, letting you know when stuff's going to land. We're going to let you know when vlogs are landing and all that kind of stuff. We want to start to have that sort of dialogue a bit more, where we're kind of telling you. It helps us as much as hopefully it helps you to know what's coming and when. You have a great day. Thank you, Russ, and you, and Salsa Trish. Stay safe. Hit the thumbs up if you've enjoyed our natter. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for all of your contributions. As ever, a bit like LBC, it's just like, you know, you are 60 to 70% of this chat, because you tell us the news that's breaking, you tell us what's happening now, you give us different takes on stuff. So thank you for all of it. And see you later. We'll speak soon. And obviously there's always something landing on the channel at some point, so we'll let you know when that is. Have a good day. Goodbye.